All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast. Today, we are going to talk about the monumental 4-1 win at St. James's Park against Brighton. And we will also be touching on the Leicester preview later on. But with me, I've got Lee down in Brisbane. How are you doing, mate?
Fucking loving it. It was class, that, wasn't it? Man, like a frigging bit of exhale there in the second half, wasn't it? It was getting a little bit sort of, I don't know.
Bottom
and then we went,
it was.
went medieval and just destroyed them. I am doing great, Craigie. How are you doing, mate?
I'm going proper mint at the minute. This is just stuff dreams are made of, you know. I've got my Champions League wallpaper back up there with Andy Griffin scoring the greatest Champions League goal of all time. If anybody disagrees, I'll meet you for a straightener in the car park. And Keegan's not a big fan of the Champions League word, but how are you doing, mate?
I was all right till you started talking about Champions League. I had a good day until you bastards started jinxing it again.
Get in.
Come on, we're only 3 points away, man. 3 points away. But anyway,
it'll be pants off after Leicester.
0 points.
It's a done deal. Has to be
0 points.
Yeah, might not even need to do anything. But just before we get started on this review, just a quick shout out for those who haven't already subscribed to the channel. Please do. We would love to get to 1,300 subscribers before the season is out. We only need 47 to go. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube as well, and 5-star ratings on all the audio stations as well if you haven't already. So let's get cracking on with this straight away. We're going to dive straight into the lineups. Newcastle being the home team, they go first. So familiar back four, back five, whichever you want to call it. So we've got Pope in goal, Trippier, Shaw, Botman and Byrne. Midfield, we've got Bruno, Willock and Big Joe. Up front, we've got Amaron, Isak and Callum Wilson. Now, I'll come to you first on this one, Keegan. Were you surprised to see the same lineup from the Leeds game?
No, I wasn't. I think that they're probably, at the moment, the best 11 players we've got to pick from. And given the enormity of the game and things like that, I think you just got to pick your best 11 players and back them to do the job.
And what about yourself, Lee?
Well, I mean, the lack of Murphy was the kind of surprise, wasn't it? Like we didn't. I mean, well, it was a surprise for me. I didn't expect him to be a late call. I don't think that the Isaac Wilson combination worked too well in the last game against Leeds or Arsenal. I did think if Murphy was, I was expecting Murphy to come into this one, and I do like the idea of being able to rotate the forward striker, in the middle of the second half, just to change things up a little bit, and that's been working really well. And we've done that, but otherwise, it's basically it picks itself, doesn't it? The back four, back five never changes. The middle rarely changes. It was just those wings and forward positions that caught me a little bit out of a little bit by surprise, and also looking at the bench, Dubravka, Dummett, Golden, ASM, Lewis, Target, Manquillo, Anderson, and Miley as well. I mean, that bench without Murphy, it starts to look even weaker than it did previously. So that was a little bit of a concern. But mate, Christ, what a result! It's a luxury to look back on this and think, "Ooh, I wasn't sure." It worked out pretty well.
Oh, it was sensational. So we'll get on to the Brighton lineup. Now, I do apologise pronouncing some of these names.
I've been waiting all day for this, Craig.
He's going to be worse than I would be. So we'll start off in goal. We got Steele, then across the back four, we got Dunk, Gross. Well, they've got Welbeck up the top, I don't know. So Gross, Welbeck, Undav, Mitoma, Caicedo, Gilmore, Van Heck, Estu, Pinnan, and Lee. Do you want to have a crack at the last one?
Bueno Nutty.
Keegan?
I think they just call him B on the training field.
B. I would call B for the sake of this one. And now that starting 11 was a big surprise to most, especially Bobby. Because Bobby said his arse was tighter than a duck's in a rainstorm or something along those lines. But when he seen that lineup, he started to relax a little. Were you both feeling the same? I'll come to you first on that one, Lee.
Well, look, I was asleep, So I'll just come right out with this. I was for the first 20 minutes. I was in bed. It was a 4:30 kickoff in the east coast of Queensland over here. 4:30 in the morning, that is, on a school day. So that's not a great time to get up, but it wasn't the worst time either. So I kind of my brain wouldn't let me sleep. So I kind of woke up after 20 minutes and I saw the score that we weren't losing. I was like, right, I'm watching this. So but looking back on it, and I've been on the forums again. You know me. I like getting on the old competition forums, especially only when we've won actually. And a lot of those guys have been saying that they've been suffering from a lot of tiredness, they've got a lot of injuries. They're playing some of the players out of position because of those injuries, and then they've got some youth coming in, and so that kind of produced this kind of we'll get onto it, but it produced what I think was a bit of an inconsistent performance from Brighton. So yeah, looking back at that retrospectively, looking at the injuries and so on that they've had, it was a bit of a surprise. I do get the feeling though that, and I think I might have heard this from the manager, that this was probably seen as a bit of a free hit, which is nuts given where they are. But they're only just trying to get into the top six. Really, that's their concern. They can't really get any higher than that. They can get, but they're looking to just secure European football this season. And so I think with the last two remaining games, particularly against Southampton, they want to make sure that they get their first team back for those games and make sure to get the points that they need. I think they saw this as a little bit of a free hit.
Your thoughts on that lineup, Keegan?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it, Craig, to be honest. I think Ferguson's been in pretty good nick the last few games as well, so it was good to see him start, and the great McDonald's menu item, Mac Allister, he when he was on the pine as well, it was really good because he's probably their best player, the most consistent player for the whole season. So to see him not playing was a big relief as well.
Yeah, there was some big names missing, like say World Cup winner McAllister being probably the biggest out of all of those. But we'll move on to actual in-game starting now. So first whistle goes, and literally from the very first moment, that press that was evidently missing at Leeds is evident from the get-go on this one, Keegan. How did you see the first opening 5-10 minutes going on this one, considering Lee was still in bed?
Oh, it was a blitz. It was an absolute blitz, and it was the Newcastle United that we'd come to see pre-World Cup. You know what I mean? Everything was front foot in their face, and I thought that was led from the front by Callum Wilson. His intensity really started, and it started at the top with him, and everyone sort of piled him around him. And I know we might get to some of the possession stuff later on, but most of the ball that Brighton had, especially in that first, probably nearly the whole first half, not just the first sort of 20 minutes, was under pressure. They had hardly any clean ball and threat to our goal at all. And some of us were sort of thinking, like, where was this against Leeds and Arsenal and things like that? But the way we started was the team that we love, and it's a team that we've seen all year, and we play our best stuff when they're on the front foot. I know it's a taxing way to play. Like, it's pretty hard to sustain over 38 games plus your cup games and things like that. But the way they sort of started really set the tone for the whole game, I reckon.
Yeah, it was an absolute breath of fresh air compared to the last two games. We were all over like flies on shit. And their keeper, he didn't know what to do with it. Best of times, he was either trying to kick it long, kick it short, but he was either going out for throw-ins, or the players just couldn't control because the ball was overhit or anything like that. And you had Miggy, Isak, and Wilson, like you said, just hoovering all of that up. And if it did get past that front three, we had the midfield just taking everything off them as well.
He was pretty rusty, their keeper, wasn't he, Craig?
Oh, mate, that was my... I was going to say that. I was going to say we're all over him like rust on steel. Ah, you bastard. I had that queued up.
Christ. How that's of all the jokes you've said since you've come on day one of the pod, that is the worst out of the lot of them, but
it's not.
It is. That's terrible. Let us know down below if you think that's the worst Keegan's done, because I think it is. Bullshit, that one, mate. Now the midfield was always going to be the midfield was always going to be a tightly fought contest, but we had Willock and Big Joe literally sticking to their players like magnets, effectively. They weren't allowed to get it within an inch of anybody. And it was a very, very tough opening 15, 20 minutes. Some tackles flying in. It got a little bit dicey at times as well within that first half. But we started again composure. They didn't threaten at all. And then on the 22nd minute, we get a corner on the, which side were we? On the left-hand side of the Leicester end, I think it was. What was directly at the near post lands straight on, what was the player's name again? It was straight on Undav's head, who did have the best first half, and puts it straight past his own keeper. At first, I thought it was a cracking header, to be honest, and I thought Botman had got to it, but it was clearly an own goal. Now, set pieces, Lee. Now, the Leeds game, they were more than shocking. They were terrible, if anything. What were you making of the set pieces so far in this first half and on the build-up to that goal?
Well, first of all, just come back to your first thing that you asked Keegan there, because you didn't ask me. Unbelievably rude. The press... The press was magnificent in that first half. Absolutely. Pre-World Cup, magnificent. It was everything that we've been missing for the last, I don't know how many games. It's just not been there. And today, probably because it's getting to, the last few games, and because it's at home, it's under the lights. Everyone's had a few beers. 2 for 1s. Newcastle put 2 for 1s on. What a legend. Yeah. What a legend move that was. It was only half an hour, but I mean, Christ, that's enough for Geordies.
That's 4.
That's 4. you buy 6 at a time. Yeah. The press, when I look back on it, it was just absolutely relentless. It was fantastic. Miggy was just terrific. He hasn't had that going on for quite a while now. And he had all the energy that he didn't have in the last few games. But everybody was up for it. It was absolutely fantastic. The set piece, I mean, I disagree. I think it was a fantastic header. It was absolutely beautiful. If you're in front of a free kick at the near post and you flick it over your head like that and it goes in the far corner, superb. Absolutely get your bonus on that one. That was a fantastic, fantastic header. But that came about because of Callum Wilson. And he was just amazing. I mean, Eddie Howe himself said it afterwards. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but Eddie Howe said it was one of his best games he's ever seen from Callum Wilson. He was absolutely fantastic. And he did all that work at the front post for that corner, and it took away the man, and it kind of went over the head of the man who was marking him, who was struggling to mark him, and it hit off Udev or whatever his name was, and it went over the top of Steele into the far corner. It was a fantastic touch. And to touch on the set pieces, I mean, let's be honest, it's been dog shit. It's been dog shit for ages from Trips. I mean, I'm being unfair in a way because he was terrific for a long time at the start of this season. I mean, he was pinpoint. He was absolutely amazing. And then the World Cup, and then I don't think he was quite the same afterwards, as I don't think anybody was after the World Cup, frankly. And it just clicked today. Everything he did today was pinpoint. I mean, look at that Leeds free kick, Craig, that we talked about in the chat, where he had a free kick. It was to the left again, right inside of the field. And he hits it to the first man in front of him. There's only one man in front of him. It's not even a wall. It's just a bloke standing there making sure he doesn't sort of play it short or around. Mm-hmm. And he just goes, all right, here comes the free kick. Pass it to me mate over there in the white shirt. And he goes and buggers up the pitch and has a really good chance. There wasn't really any of that in this game. It was, from that point onwards, it was absolutely sensational. I'm waffling. Get on with it. It was brilliant.
So after that first goal, we didn't let up. Like, to be honest, what we've normally done all season, when the first one goes in, we normally try and go for a second straight away. It's like a shark smelling blood in the pool. We'll try to go for the kill. There was the odd chance where I think it was Dunk cleared it off the line, where Wilson was just ready for a poke in effectively from Dan Burn doing some good work. Dan Burn had one of his better games today as well, but again, we'll touch on that later on. But then in the 29th minute, there was a little bit of a break in the box, a little bit of a loose ball, which Callum Wilson decides to chase after, as he's heading towards the right-hand corner flag of the Leazer's end. And Lewis Dunk sticks out his leg. Wilson goes over. Now, we've talked about this relatively extensively in our own private chat. Now, I do personally think it's a penalty because The leg goes out. There is contact made. I do think Wilson made probably most of the contact. I don't think he initiated the contact. I think the contact was made the most of. But the fact that Dunk sticks his leg out, he does make Wilson fall over. Why wasn't it given as a penalty? And if it was given a penalty, why wasn't Wilson booked for simulation? And I'll come to you first on this one, Keegan, because I know Lee's going to have a good old right answer about that one.
It reminded me of last season. He got a penalty in a similar way down the Gallagher end where an opponent went to clear the ball and he sort of come in from behind him, like from his blind spot, and the guy didn't see him and ended up kicking Wilson, and he got the penalty for it. I think last year he flushed him a little bit more than what he did this morning. But I can't remember which player it was, but I mentioned this in the chat as well. It happened at Man United this year where one of the Man United, it was probably Bruno Fernandes, went down under, there was contact, but there was minimal contact. But he went down so easily, you don't know how much contact was actually made. And it was similar to this. It was sort of a combination of both where I don't reckon he's seen Wilson coming and then his leg was out. And I think he did make contact with Wilson's left leg, but Wilson put so much mayo on it that you're like, well, I don't know how much you've actually been touched, mate. Like, I can't give that because, like, I don't know. Like, you can't guess in them situations. So I think he definitely touched the angle from sort of behind both players. You can clearly see his right foot make contact with Wilson's left leg, but because he dived and put so much mayo on it, you don't know how much contact was actually made.
Man, he flung himself to the floor, man. Come on. Look, even if he does, I just said. Look, I know, no. But I mean, you're saying, he had a touch. You're almost sort of debating if it is a penalty, even though he did fucking spread it with so much mayo, he could make like a bloody coronation chicken out of it. Mate, it was a dive.
Yeah,
it was a pure dive. He kicks the ball just far enough away from the guys who comes in, and he chucks his arms in front of him like he's bloody Superman. It was ridiculous.
If it was a dive, then why wasn't he booked for simulation?
Because the referee's shite. Because the referee makes a lot of mistakes in this game and other games, and you can't guarantee that referee will do the right thing. I mean, later on in the game, there was a point where Dan Burns' shirt was on the floor and probably in the crowd, and to some kid walking out the bloody Gallagher, and that doesn't get called up for even a caution, let alone a yellow card, or what should have probably been a penalty, since we didn't get any of it. We'll get on that later on. It happened all the way through this game and happens on every single game. You can't guarantee that the referee will give everything for everything. It didn't get called because it was a friggin' swan dive, and the referee let it go from that point onwards.
Well, let us know in the comments below if you think it was a penalty, or if you think you should have got booked for simulation.
No,
way, let us know in the comments below.
What I will say though, Craig, before you move on, is that was class work by Miggy. Absolutely mint work to move into that goal. If you watch him when he comes into the right hand side of the box there, as in the direction of play, he does a little shift with his foot and he moves it just far enough away from the guy. In fact, if anything, that bundle on Miggy before the ball goes loose is probably a better shot for a penalty than the bloody Callum Wilson one was, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, speaking of the ref, Bruno picked up a bit of a meaningless yellow card. Yeah. Did either of you see that as a yellow card? Even though, I mean, it was just the first offence, but some first offences are warrant of a yellow card. Did either of you see that as a deserving of a yellow?
This is literally where I joined. So I just missed that penalty shot, and this is literally where I sort of tuned in. I saw, and he was losing his mind. Like he was going, "Oh, come on!" And he was like, and for a good few minutes, he's like waving his finger in front of the referee's face. And I'm thinking, Bruno, mate, look, you're not going to. First of all, you're not going to change his mind, right? He's not going to go, "Oh, you know what? He's waved that finger 3 times." I tell you what, I'll unrule. I'll take that yellow card out. I'll go backwards and put it back in my pocket. If anything, he's going to give you another yellow card for dissent and get your ass off the pitch, And there was times where I thought in this game that Bruno was really kind of treading a tightrope, and I think it started from this. And I think maybe he has a point that first offence, but if someone does a foul that is bad enough, it doesn't matter if it's your first offence or your 7th offence. If it's bad enough to get a card, even if that's a red card, it should still be that red card or yellow card. Like it's
agreed. Aye.
It's not like you go, right, you've had 4 fouls where you've like destroyed people's knees or legs or whatever. Now I'm going to give you like a ticking off. If you destroy another few legs, I'll give you like a yellow. And then if you really take the piss, I might give you a red. It's not like that. If you do a bad tackle, you should get the card that it deserves. On the question of whether it deserves it, I honestly can't even remember. I know he was really pissed off, but I think he was pissed off that he was getting a yellow card straight away without a caution. So that makes me think it was probably worth a yellow card.
And Keegan, your opinion on that one?
Yeah, I thought it was a yellow card. Like, I think he wasn't arguing it wasn't a foul. I think he cracked the shits because it was his first one.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It wasn't it wasn't the foul. And like Lee said, if it's a yellow card, it's a yellow card. Doesn't matter if it's your first one or your eighth one. Like, too bad. But he was on edge, and I think that he was actually, I reckon he was nearly lucky to stay on the pitch because it was just after that. I reckon he took a bit out of Callum's book and took a bit of a tumble on the edge of the box as well under minimal contact. And that, like, if he got a second yellow, I don't think he could have had any complaints about it because it was a pretty dumb thing to do. Like, especially, I don't know
emotional.
He was wound up, wasn't he? Yeah,
absolutely from the start. Even Joe Linton starts getting into it eventually, but
he does.
He was super wound up, and I wonder if that whole thing was about desperation to score.
Even Miggy was like that. I've never seen Miggy like that ever.
He went rag in the second half. We'll get onto that one. But as the last quarter of the second half plays through, Bournemouth, Brighton, they started to get a little bit of momentum with the ball, albeit they didn't do much with it. They had one shot from distance from ex-Mackham Danny Welbeck. It was just straight into the hands of Nick Pope. And Matoma, he had a shot from about 25 yards out, who I think it hit some bloke in level 7, knocked his second free pint out of his hand or something like that. So that's pretty much all Brighton done. The end of the first half, it got quite a bit emotional towards the end because, as we just talked about, Big Joe, he was spoiling for a fight. He wanted to knock Casado out. I think it was him who he was going for anyway. And Shaw, he picked up a yellow card for looking at Billy Gilmore. Billy Gilmore went down as if he'd been shot by 10 snipers.
Oh, come on. He elbowed him in the face, mate.
He didn't touch him.
You're a hard master.
He didn't even touch him, man. Go back and watch it. You'll see that the
forearm hits him in the face.
Literally, his fingertips hit him on the tip of the nose. He doesn't elbow him. Go and watch it back, mate. You're wrong. You're wrong on that one.
There was nothing in it.
There wasn't.
That's it. I didn't have any issues with it.
Bit of handbags going on, and then I think there's the free kick you're on about. Udev, who again hasn't had the best first half, he takes down Bruno on the edge of the box, the right hand side. This is 45 minutes in, I think it is. We've just started extra time in the first. Yeah. Trips us over it. What were you both thinking at this point right now? We're thinking this is just going to go way to the corner flag. Keeper's going to catch it or anything. Did either of you expect Dan Burton to bury his second goal of the season? I'll come to you first, and then Keegan. Dan and Lee,
look. Yeah, shut you. You're below me in this video feed here. I'm to the right here. Look, Dan Burn himself admitted afterwards that he doesn't score enough goals from his head, and that's true. He doesn't. But what we've been lacking, probably again since the World Cup, is that technique that tactic where we lob the ball far and deep to the far post, and Dan Burn is there waiting to head it down back into the mix. We did that a fair few times early in the season, and we just haven't really followed that through as the season's gone on. And for whatever reason that is, but today you could already see that, as we've said, Trippier was just absolutely on point. He was laser focused. His passing was early season. It wasn't sort of mid to late season. Like I say, he was dog shit against Leeds, but he was brilliant. And so every time he gets in that position, you think something can come out of this. But whether I thought it was Dan Burn or not, I don't know. Mate, honestly, I was just thinking, go in front at half time, and we can really start to think about how we get these 3 points at the end of the second half. It was a beautiful ball. It was a beautiful leap. I've got questions about Rusty Steele's position there. He wasn't great in that first half. Let's be honest. No. He wasn't very good. He got a lot better in the second half. But tremendous. The only thing about that really disappointed me, that goal, is that he didn't do his Shearer again. He didn't do his goddamn Shearer celebration. Last time he scored in the cup, I think it was, he was like, "Oh yeah, I think I forgot. I just lost my mind. But I'll definitely do it next time." And then goes and does it again, scores a goal, like that could probably gets the 3 points to the Champions League. And he's like, "Oh, I'll just run to the corner flag and slide him in knees." Not good enough, Dan Burn. Not fucking good enough.
You get him told. You got that step lad on stitching nut on the next time, eh?
Outrageous.
But I'll tell you one thing I was really pleased with on this one. I'll come to you on this one, Keegan. Is the fact that I know he's a Geordie lad through and through, but he celebrated against his former club. That's something I always really like to get behind. I hate it when players show too much respect for previous employees, former clubs, or anything like that. Do you agree with that, or is it something you think we should show a bit of respect, a little bit of muted celebration, and hopefully you didn't get another type of thing?
I'll just dive in with this one, Keeks.
Yeah, on you,
what I'll say is that he was third choice at Brighton, all right, and he's a proper Geordie boy. He's from Blythe. Did nobody know he's from Blythe? Apparently, he's from Blythe.
Is he?
But I don't have any problem with players. I'm going to answer this question first. I actually have no problem with players. Keeks, take a breath. I've got no problem with players showing respect. I mean, why wouldn't you? But he's at home. It's such a such an important goal. It's at his club. It's his club. I think it would have been in this specific situation. I think this would have been weird if you hadn't have celebrated. Keeks, mate, you've been really quiet, mate. What do you reckon?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to play the music, and that was the end of this pod.
All right.
No, I wanted him to do the full Adebayor. I was kind of disappointed in his celebration, so I thought he was going to give it the big ones to the people up on the moon, all the Brighton fans. But there's no like right or wrong. I mean, like you could get someone like bloody Balotelli, who's had 57 different clubs. Like, was he never? Not that he celebrates a goal. He's probably a bad example, but guys who have been at a club and like, there's not a hard and fast rule. Like, if you've been there for more than a few years, like you probably feel a bit bad because you've got really good relationships and things like that with the staff, the players, the fans, and stuff like that. But I feel like a Dan Burn, who like Lee said, he stole everything I've got to say so far anyway. But it's his home club. Like, it's a massive goal and a massive game. The same as what the Southampton one was as well. Like, you can't manufacture emotion.
You can't not celebrate.
No, that's what I mean. You can't manufacture. You celebrate how you feel, and well, obviously, Lee will talk about the Bruno goal, no doubt, later on. I'm not going to talk about it. You just are. But you've seen the emotion that come out of him after he scored as well. Like, you can't manufacture that. Like, that's just him coming out in that moment. He's not thinking about doing a Shearer. He's just like, shit, I've just scored a goal that could potentially get Champions League.
But for his club,
for my boyhood club. That's
his
what
whole
I mean.
Family's his whole family's in the stands, mate.
Yeah, the whole of Blythe was there watching him. Like,
all
the Spartans lineup was all there. They got all tickets, and
there was somebody on the Brighton forum who said, like, "Oh, is it just me, or did I feel really like hard done to by this? Am I being a suit, or like, should someone like putting a straightener on him?" And some guy went back and went, "Oh, I'm sure if like a bloke who used to play for his hometown team comes back, a bloke who played for someone else came back to his hometown team, scored a goal, might get him the Champions League at home, in the dark, in the lights, ran to his fans. I'm sure we'd be kicking off about it. Like, it was a proper sort of, just a rearrangement of the mindset of that one particular fan. It would have been wrong to be any different. But I can understand why Brighton fans might have wanted a little bit more respect. But how do you show, like Keek says, how do you show respect in that moment of pure emotion? He's only scored like 2 goals this whole fucking season or something. Like, how do you show what do you do? Do you sort of like slowly trot past the away fans? Because it's at the Leeds end, isn't it, when he scores? Do you just slowly trot past and like kind of, sort of dip your head and go,
just
like with your puppy eyes and go, "Oh, I'm really sorry, mate. I'm so sorry, lads. I'm so sorry." And then just as you get past the eyesight, do it like a Shelby and leg it all the way down to the Gallagher. Like, how are you supposed to do it? Like, just celebrate it. That's what he did. He's in Newcastle. He's black and white. He always has been. He always will be. His whole family is. It was appropriate.
Actually,
Couldn't
no,
agree
it
more.
wasn't. He should have done the dimmy, I reckon.
Shirt off,
Shirt
Willie
off,
Seed.
shirt off, chest pubes all out, going over his head. Like,
I thought you meant get the bazooka out and start playing it.
yeah.
But before we get over carried away on Dan Burn's celebration, we'll move on to the second half. There was no changes in the second half, even though the commentators were urging for Brighton to make something because they were adamant that Brighton were going to come on and win this game. Jim Beglin, I don't know whoever commentary or what you got wherever you watch in the world, but we had Jim Beglin with somebody else, and he genuinely hates us. And they were begging for Brighton to score to equalise or anything like that. But when we went in 2-0, they're always saying Brighton need to make changes. They've got these on the bench, blah, blah, blah. No changes made. And the second half started pretty much with the same momentum as the first. We had a few chances, and on the 51st minute, there was a glorious opportunity for Miggy to make it 3-0. Now, this was, again, a bit of cracking play. Now, do you put this down as a bad miss or a good save from the keeper, Keegan?
I'll take this first, Keegs. I would say... no, you go first.
I reckon that was the only skid mark on his game was that moment. Apart from that, his 95 minutes was as good as you'll ever see from someone who didn't actually score. But he's got to finish that. Like that could have been it would have been the game. Like the next half an hour would have been an absolute dream for all of us watching, and we wouldn't have our guts churning for the last half an hour. Like
30 minutes,
you've got like the worst bout of gastro you've ever had in your life, just sitting in your guts and your guts is churning and stuff like that. And I think what made it hurt even more was what happened like 40 seconds later for them to go straight back down and score was a real kick in the dick.
It was. It wasn't what was expected. It wasn't anticipated, that's for sure. And it certainly came against the run of play. I'm going to go to Lee now if he's got his breath back from that.
Mate,
good save or bad miss?
Yeah, it was
a good save. I'll just take this one. Lee. It was a good save as well. No,
it was a. What have I ever done to you for this? No, it was a bad miss. Pre-World Cup, Mickey doesn't miss that at all. That's in the back of the net, and he's peeling away, waving his shirt around, and it was a bad miss. It was kicked straight at him. It was right at the keeper. Like you could have put it probably anywhere else. And Steele wasn't great. Like, but if you're going to kick the ball towards the goal,
he was riveting though, wasn't he?
He was riveting. He was molten hot. You wouldn't put the ball right at him. Like he wasn't having a great game. He was a lot, like I said, he's a lot better in the second half. But like if you're going to have that situation where I think was it Callum Wilson who headed it on to Mick in the first place?
Roof of the net.
Am I thinking of a different thing? Anyways, when the ball comes to Miggy, I think what he needed to do was to hit it into the ground. Like any striker probably would have kicked that into the ground because then you've got the randomness of divots and the bounce and the keeper has to sort of predict one of those things and invariably gets it completely wrong. And I think he should have done better. But I don't want to take anything away from the performance from Miggy. He was blown out of his arse that second half. I actually said in the chat early doors, like even around this time, maybe just shortly afterwards, he was struggling with the pace of the game that Brighton were bringing in that second half. So I don't want to take anything away from him, but I think he should have done better in that situation. I think he could have done it. And as we saw, Craig, as you're going to move on to next, it felt a bit like it was a real pivotal moment, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. So long ball, a ball from the keeper straight to Billy Gilmore, I believe it was. And he just does a midfield and defense splitting pass that finds Udev, and he rights the wrong of his first half display and puts it, I think it went through Nick Pope's legs. Keeper was pretty much a passenger at that side of thing. Fabian Shaw was very close to getting the block in, but just wasn't there. And Botman was a little bit too far up the pitch, in my opinion, on that one. That was probably
behind it. Yeah.
He was well behind the play. But the goal came against the run of play, significantly against the run of play, but it gave them a bit of a lifeline. And shortly after that, they made a triple substitution. When those 3 subs came on, Keegan, were you thinking, shit, we're going to have a bit of a game on here? This isn't how we anticipated this to go.
No, I was thinking that before they come on. As soon as the goal went in, I was thinking that. But that really reinforced. And like they said on the commentary, their manager's not scared of making bulk changes at once, like he made 4 at once against Everton. So he's definitely not scared to do that. And when you've got the quality of player like McAllister and Ferguson, it's like you're 2-1 down. You've got to go for the jugular. But even like I think it was just everyone was sort of caught out because of the way they played in the first half. I think we just sort of rested on our laurels a bit and just switched off for that split second. And then we got cut open like really, really easily. And it was really the only time that it happened for the game. Like as much as they huffed and puffed after they scored, I don't think Pope really had too much to do. It was just that sort of split second after the Almiron chance that everyone had sort of switched off. And then next thing I know, they're in on goal and they've put one in the bag. So it was almost like an outlier.
It was almost like we'd scored, you know, that kind of moment after you score and everyone just goes, "Oh, great!" And then the other team just runs up the pitch and scores again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like our Spurs Liverpool game the other day, like where Liverpool just went, "All right," and then ran up and done the 4-3. It felt a bit like that, didn't it?
And then, but even you probably get to this as well, Craigie. But I think, look, everyone says, "Oh, Brighton were back in the game and dominated the game after they scored." Look, we significantly changed our tactics after that. We just sort of went in a bit more protect mode and sort of sat deep and managed the game. We put the press away for a little bit, knowing we only had that 1 goal advantage and tried to lock the game down. Like I think that part of the game, how it happened, was more to do with us sort of retreating a little bit and happy to try and see this 2-1 win out rather than them imposing themselves on the game like we did in the first half.
Yeah. Literally, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with that one. But when the first goal for Brighton went in, their only goal, it was very similar to, when Spurs got their first goal against us back at the London Stadium earlier on, not the London Stadium, wherever they play, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, sorry. When Keane got that goal back after we went 2-0 up, Spurs didn't do much with it either then. They tried, they couldn't break through, they had shots from distance, everything was just trickling through to the keeper. And it just reminded me of that. There was never one point where I thought, we're going to throw away this lead here, or they're going to come back and actually win this game. We were always in control to a certain degree. And again, they weren't getting much in terms of corners or anything. I'd say Lee is shaking his head there. So I take it you've got a different opinion on this one. But I do think we were in control, even though they had the majority of possession. Your thoughts on that one, then, Lee?
Oh, is it my turn to talk? All right, far be it for me to have a different opinion. You know me. I actually think that really up until we scored the third, that it was seat of the pants. Like, I mean, I don't think any of you lads here can sort of sit there and say that it was under control and they felt that it was going to end as a victory for Newcastle, because the truth of the matter is Brighton were really good second half. They changed their formation, they changed their tactics. Newcastle obviously assisted that a lot, and I absolutely hate it when, I don't know how many times I've got to say this, but I bloody hate seeing the opposition just walk out of their own half unimpeded. And it happened up until we scored that third. It happened this whole second half. That we had literally just decided to, when that goal went in. By the way, it was a really good goal. I mean, the problem with that goal was that there was a bloody acre of space between the two full centre backs. Like we were just, if you watch it from behind, the bloke just looks up and sees this frigging farmer's field in front of him, and he just kicks it into that space. Like, he didn't have to do a great deal. The pass didn't have to be particularly brilliant. The run didn't have to be particularly amazing. The guy just stood in the middle and waited for the seas to part like the Red Sea, and he just slotted it through the middle. And what I will say, though, is that it was a really, really composed finish, a really good composed finish. He takes it to the side 3 or 4 times before he picks his time to kick it past Nick Pope. I think it went over his foot. I don't think it went underneath him anyway. But Brighton were, I think Brighton were the far superior team in that second half. I really do. I mean, bear in mind, we only really sealed this game in the dying minutes of the 90 of the second 45. I don't think anyone can sit there and think that it was under control. I don't think anyone can really pretend like it was easy going, like we had our flip flops, our thongs on, and we're on the beach, sort of sipping a mimosa or something. It was. I was shitting myself, mate. Like we just didn't look. The press, like Keegan touched on there, the press just went away. That press just did not exist in that second half. It was gone. It was, you know, I think Brighton were really good second half. I think it was doing a disservice to try and pretend that it was anything other than a tough second half until the very end.
Do you echo the same, Keegan?
Yeah, a little bit, to an extent. I mean, I do think we retreated more into a half-ground kind of a zone, I guess, more than a press. Like we weren't actually getting up on them on the ball and things like that.
It was our only. It was in our own half, mate. We didn't get. We just sat back in our own half.
That's what I'm saying. So we retreated into our own half, into like a zone rather than a not like.
But our zone was our entire own half.
Yeah. Not getting out of our half. Like happy for him to sort of get to halfway and then we'll defend once you get into our defensive.
But against a team like Brighton, like I get.
Yeah. But that's how much confidence they must have in their defensive abilities. But I'm with Lee. I wasn't sitting there going, "Oh, this is great. We'll walk this. We'll sort of hold on to this 2-1 for the rest of the game comfortably." Like, let's be honest, our defending the last sort of 10 games has been not great. Like, we're conceding goals every game. I think we've only kept one clean sheet in the last 10 or 11 games. Like, our defensive stuff's not great. We conceded 2 against Leeds, albeit a penalty and a horrible deflection. But like, teams can score against us. So when you've got a team with the quality that Brighton has, especially with the players that they've brought on, who are also fresh, the threat's there the whole time. Like, you can't switch off. And the one time we did switch off, they scored. Like, so it was nervous. Like I said on Twitter, like, you couldn't have driven a toothpick up my ass with a sledgehammer that last half an hour. Like, that's how bloody sick I felt and tired it was. But like, it's easy to say now on reflection, like, oh, they didn't have a chance. But when you're in the moment, you don't think that when you're watching it. You're thinking like, shit, can we just get the ball I know that we're not going to get scored against? That's how I was feeling.
It felt more to me like it was going to be a 2-2 rather than a 3-1 at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought we were in control. They didn't really do much. They didn't create many chances. They didn't exactly pepper Pope's goal with shots or anything like that. But we'll move on to that one. We covered that one for a good few minutes there. Time is ticking on. But I wanted to get to 61 minutes. Joe Willock pulls up with what looks like a pretty serious hamstring injury, which pretty much puts him out for the remainder of the season, albeit there's only 2 games left. How much do you think this could impact the final 2 games, Lee? Considering Longstaff could be out for the remaining 2 games as well.
Well, the rumor is, or the suspicion, or the suggestion is that Murph and Longy will probably be in contention for the next game.
Right.
So it may be a moot point. If it isn't a moot point, and let's say that Murph and Longy don't return, or more particularly, Longy doesn't return, I think we can probably cope with it to an extent. I mean, you know, if we get to the man of the match at some point in this 2-hour podcast, this is probably going to turn out to be. Honestly, I think we'll be giving 3 points to everybody in this team because they were all brilliant and they all played their part at certain stages and phases of this game. And Willock is absolutely no exception. His finishing could have been better, but you know, sometimes he's on, sometimes he's not. But he was still very good in the things that he did. We might miss his forward dynamicism. If Bruno was a little bit further forward, that probably wouldn't be so much an issue, but then he needs someone behind him, and we know that that's a little bit of an issue, defensive midfield. We've got Gordon, who can play wings, and we can probably move Joe into the middle. Well, Joe was in the middle today anyway. I don't think at this stage of the season it's going to be that much of a big deal, answering your question. I think we can probably just about manage with the guys that we have left, but it does mean that the subs bench is just that bit more weak. Like it's already weak. It's already weak, and it's going to be weaker again if that's what happens.
You think he's going to be a huge loss, Keegan?
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive loss. More because we've got no one left. Like if Longstaff was fit, he probably wouldn't be that big a loss because you've still got Longstaff, Joe, and Bruno to play in there. Three quality players. But when you take one out, like no disrespect to your illegitimate love child, Elliot Anderson, Craig. Like I just don't. He's not the same quality. Yeah, he's not the same quality as what the three that played this morning are. So we are going to be a little bit, I guess, underhanded. But who knows? They might go to what they tried against Leeds, where it was sort of like Bruno and Joe as a midfield, and then Willock played on the left, and Isak played like a bit of a roaming 10. He sort of was in between the lines, and Miggy was out on the right, so they could potentially maybe bring in Maxi or Gordon to play on the left instead of what Willock was doing, and then have Isak again sort of in that roaming role. I'm not sure. Like there's a few different ways. Maybe it didn't quite work against Leeds. I don't think so. Maybe they won't do that. Maybe they'll just play Anderson. And I think when he's come on, he has still showed a bit. Like he still looks like a bit. I think it was Liverpool his only start for the season that lasted 20 minutes, and then he got hooked off for Pope. So,
Aye.
I mean, we've said this probably 6 or 7 times so far, but Leicester is the biggest game of the season now. Well, we win this and we're in. So it's going to be massive responsibility for him to come on and play well and contribute to a win, hopefully, on the Leicester game. So it's going to be interesting to see what Eddie does with this.
It is. It's going to be very interesting, very intriguing when we wake up in the early hours of Monday morning, I think it is for us, or Tuesday morning, whenever. Tuesday morning, and we'll see that starting lineup. So we'll be looking forward to that. But now, as the game started progressing on there, a few subs being made, a few fresh legs, we started creating the odd few chances, but nothing that was clear cut. A bit of pinball in their box, bit of pinball in ours, but again, nothing concrete or anything. And then Brighton have the ball right in the far corner of the right-hand side. Kieran Trippier manages to shoulder barge Matoma, who, to be honest, Trippier kept him quiet all day. He's a quality player, Matoma, as well.
Brilliant.
But from that ball, he gives it to, I think it was Miggy. And Miggy just decides to dance his way past their midfield and slots the most accurate through ball in terms of an offside call I have ever seen through to Callum Wilson on the 89th minute. Wilson charges down on the Gallagher end. He's one-on-one with Steele. Puts it into the bottom corner. Gallagher goes into raptures. Game is won. Game's over with. We were all like, holy fuck, this is happening. Let's get the cans out. Champions League, here we come, that type of thing. Now, for a split second,
we all weren't thinking that. Oh, 100%.
You thought he was offside?
Do you know why I thought he was offside? Because he's so slow and he's in so much space. I was like, there's no way that he could have been possibly onside.
It didn't seem possible, did it? It didn't seem
in that
like
much space. Like, there's no way. And
well,
then
I actually went back and I've rewatched the goal about 1 million times today. If you watch it pretty much in slow motion, you'll see he has a quick look over his shoulder. He takes one step back and then one step forward to get himself away from Milky, from me, myself, and Irene. And
Ivan Drago.
Ivan Drago, he gets himself in on goal. Now, one thing I was thinking is he was charging down on goal, and this happened against West Ham when he had all the time in the world to pick his spot. I thought he might have had too much time, and he may have just put it into the side net and keeper makes a save, because the keeper did get a foot to it. Just bounces in off his ankle, I believe it was. But in terms of the importance of that goal, and what was Callum Wilson's 18th in the Premier League, I believe, for us, where does that rank in terms of importance so far this season, Keegan?
Oh, it's probably the most important, because this was the biggest game of the year, and he scored. Look, it would have been the winning goal anyway, even if we didn't score again. But
yeah,
you know, Lee's probably thinking the same thing. I'm just going to enjoy his last 2 games with us before we sell him in the summer. So, yeah, for those of you who don't know, Craig was pretty keen on selling Wilson in the summer to raise another 20 million for some other transfer targets. So we're quick to remind him that the bloke who scored 18 goals so far in the season is not going to be with us for much longer. So please be like us, enjoy his time with us, and his last 2 games. Hopefully, he can get to 20 goals, and we can see him off with a smile and a salute and all that sort of stuff. So, God bless him.
Now, to be honest, I will hold my hands up and eat my hat on that one. I got that one significantly wrong. But again, previous question over to you now, Lee.
Yeah, look, we all get things wrong. I thought we should have sold Miggy in the summer and see what happens to ASM. And as it turns out, ASM wasn't very good, and Miggy kind of got us flying, didn't he, at the start of the season?
Hey, mate,
what the fuck? What do any of us know about this shit, mate?
I reckon 80% of people would have agreed with you, Lee. I know. Yeah, you're not an outlier there. I know you like to be a lone wolf, but you're not now.
I'm always right. What I will say again, and I'll just touch on how Miggy was jaded in that. I said on the chat in about 50 odd minutes, maybe before, just after that goal that Brighton scored. He was puffing out of his arsehole, mate. When he was tracking back he was far up the right hand side. He was tracking back, and he did that. You know, everyone who watches Miggy knows that when he's blowing, he sticks his head down. He starts nodding around like that bloody budget direct dog, right? And you know that means he's struggling. And he was doing that with 10 minutes into the second half, and then suddenly this goal, because he hasn't been doing a great deal in the second half, conserving his NG. I don't know what it was, but he suddenly rounds Casiero, I think, wasn't it? He rounds him with a lovely dink down the touchline. I was fully expecting that to go out, by the way. And he runs forward down the wing. Obviously, Brighton are pushing a little bit to try and get the equaliser. It's getting late in the game. It's in the 88th or something?
89th.
So obviously Brighton are pushing caution to the wind here a little bit. Miggy finds that little burst of speed, and and even then, though, if you watch Miggy enough, any Newcastle fan will know that he'll make his pass at the wrong time. Usually when the forward is just straight off a little bit, and you're like, oh, for God's sake, Miggy, like be a little bit more aware. But I think on this occasion, he was helped by a fantastic check run from Callum Wilson. I was the same. This is what VAR has done to all of us, by the way. Mm-hmm. You can't celebrate a goal like that at a time. I just sat there and I was like, yeah, he's offside.
So did I.
He's offside.
I didn't celebrate it.
I've got a grin on my face, but it's kind of a grin of like, I know he's offside and you're all celebrating like a bunch of idiots. Because VAR has taken that, and Jack whinges about this quite a lot. VAR has taken that away from us all in the game. Like, everything is getting checked. Brighton's goal was checked, even though he's clearly onside. And it takes away that little edge of celebration that you have to sort of check yourself and think, well, I want to celebrate that. It looked pretty good, but bloody hell, it was close. I'll just wait a little bit, Anyway, as it was, fantastically checked run from Callum Wilson. And when you mentioned there before that he looks behind him, he does it again before he slots it past the keeper. He looks to his left. He looks at where the defender is. I'm not sure if he's trying to just give the keeper eyes or what, but the keeper does get a foot to it, by the way. But he slots it past it, and he looked almost sort of nonchalant, didn't he, when he ran away from that goal? He was like just going, "Aye, fucking big dog," and then at the end he's got smiles on his face, but he's definitely got that kind of like.
So I thought
no, he was like that.
Yeah, but when he done that, I thought he knows he's offside too. That's why he's not really celebrating it.
I was about to say, I think he probably thought the same thing. I think he probably thought, because it's so fine, like it is so close, like it couldn't be any. I don't think it could be any closer, really, to be honest with you. Like his fingertip was just like if his fingernail grew like a millimeter in that time between drawing the lines or whatever, that would have been probably offside. And I think you're right, Keegan. I think he thought he was offside, and so is it a situation where even the players can't celebrate a goal? Like the fans at the ground will, obviously, but at home I'm like, that's offside. Are the players even thinking it's offside? Is VAR doing that to the game?
It is, unfortunately. It is. So that makes the game 3-1. That pretty much puts the game to bed. However, though, 92 seconds later, we get probably the most energetically charged celebration we've seen all season. As great little play from Isak on the left-hand side, plays in Callum Wilson. Wilson, his hold-up play at this point of the game, which I think was in the 94th minute, whenever it was, the hold-up play to have the energy, the mindset, and the vision to be able to play in Bruno when he could have had a shot at goal himself and went for another double. He's had a few this season. But that pass to get it onto Bruno's foot, Bruno side foots it into the back of the net. Again, Gallagher then goes into raptures. It's 4-1. The city is literally bouncing. There's probably free beer flying all over the place. God knows what it would have been like inside the stadium because we can only hear it through the TV, but the sound was deafening. It was absolutely sensational. I'm singing "We've Got Bruno in the Middle." I'm waking the wife up and everything like that. It was genuinely breathtaking to see. Keegan, your thoughts on the build-up play, the goal itself, and the celebration, please.
I'll go first, Keeks. The commentary on Newcastle's the commentary on Newcastle's. Honestly, I'll have to go first because I'm going to spew me gutsy if I don't. The commentary on the Newcastle from Reza, he's out of his seat, man. He's jumping up and down. It's gone. He is screaming. The noise from the crowd is unbelievable. But I think the best thing about all that is Bruno. He's been dying to get a goal. 19 games until he scored today. But he's been desperate. And you can see it in him when he's getting frustrated. He's desperate to get a goal. And I'll be honest with you, as good as that, I mean, props to Bobby. He called out Isaac's play to start with, and it was sensational. That ball control. That's why I like him down the wing. He's fucking brilliant down the wing. He's like ASM, but he can score. He's just sensational. Releases Wilson, and I'm like you, Craig. I thought he was going to hit with his left foot. He was then left of the goal. I thought he was going to take a punt on it. Why not? I mean, the game's basically done. It's 8 minutes extra time, but the game's basically done. You've got 2 goals in them. They're not going to come back from that. He holds it up, but I actually think the ball to Bruno was pretty poor. Like he puts Gross on his arse. He sends him off to the shops for the milk, and he sits up and he's got all the space in the world to just lay it along the ground to Bruno, who's charging in. It's a bit like that Leicester goal last season, when he just comes flying in with a header. But this time it should have just went along the ground and just for an easy tap in. But he kind of lifts it for some reason. I don't know why he does it. He lofts it, and I think you've got to appreciate the skill it took from Bruno, full pelt. He's in the air, he's off the ground to side foot that ball into the back of net at that stage of the game, given how much he's given to this game. The whole thing was just sensational. Keegs, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say what you said.
All right, moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, like it was. So I didn't really catch it because I was still celebrating the Wilson goal. So I missed sort of. I was sort of by the time I'd sort of switched back and focused on the TV, and I pretty much only focused on the TV because the commentator's voice sort of increased. I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? And I looked, and then Wilson's kind of threw on goal again. I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on here? And then I was the same thinking, just shoot. Like, who cares? It's a free hit. It's party time now. And then Bruno's made an absolute lungbuster. I don't know why he has. Like, the game's over. Like, we don't need to do this. Save your
That's
tickets.
what he does. That's what he does.
And he's just made an absolute lungbuster and crashed the back of the net. And the scenes was like, I'm showing my miss. Like, not that my missus, she likes it, but she doesn't. She likes it because she knows how happy it makes me. Well, how happy it makes me now. It used to make me really sad and angry and miserable, but now I'm happy. So I was showing her, and even she was like, "Wow, look at everyone!" Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, like it was crazy." I actually thought he was gonna. That was another moment. I actually thought he was gonna get another red card, another yellow card, and get sent off. I thought he was gonna. When he sort of stood on that thing, I thought he's gonna jump in the crowd here. Yeah. And I thought, oh no, but no, he had his wits about him, and he stopped, and looked like the king of the north when he was standing on his little perch and looking at the minions down below. And man, it was fucking crazy. It was so good.
It was
sensational, wasn't it? Sensational. And it was probably one of the most times we've seen Eddie animated on the touchline as well when that goal went in.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think he was. I think he got caught. I think the other bloke sort of got around him more than. Yeah, I think he sort of give it the quick little fist pump or the double fist pump. He's sort of going for celebration, and then
he went. No, he went on the boys started jumping. Give me a little tap on the keg, and then Jonesy dives in.
Yeah, Jonesy was up and about. I think Tinder was on the signage with Bruno celebrating with the fans right next to him as well.
No, he was in the solarium.
Yeah, he checked
Tinder
out.
was in front of Bruno, man. He was getting all the photos. He was there.
That was funny too.
But that goes to the final whistle then. Newcastle win 4-1. Certainly not a result we all would have called in the 87th minute, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was a cracking result. It was a result that we needed, to be honest, after the defeat to Arsenal and the draw at Leeds. And now I'm just going to show, again, I've mentioned this a few times, but it's pretty much pure pornography. I'm going to come to the full-time stats in just a sec. But the league table.
Get the table up. All right, Keegs.
How good is that? I mean, we're sat third, 2 games to go. We are 3 points out of Man United in 4th. They're on 66. Liverpool are in 5th place on 65. Liverpool have got 2 games to go. Man United play, is it Bournemouth away this weekend? I think it is. So
yes.
There's still a lot of football to be played, but after that result there, we've literally got 1.5 feet in the doorway of the Champions League on that one, Lee.
Look, we are. If Villa can do us a favour against Liverpool this weekend, and Villa are not bad this season, let's be honest, since what's his face came in? Frenchie
Emery.
Yeah, since Frenchie McLovin came in, they've been pretty good, but they've won the last one, as you can see there on the form there, but they lost a couple beforehand, so. You don't know what. I suppose at this point you don't really know what you're going to get out of them. Do they still have a chance of Europe? Yeah, they're well in there for Europe. So Villa have a lot to play for here. If they can do us a favour, like they did again in the Championship when they managed to give us the title, if they could do that again, I mean they haven't got Grealish obviously, but if they can just manage to somehow arrange it so that we can be Champions League guaranteed by beating Liverpool, that would be absolutely tremendous. If not, we have to look. Leicester are a basket case right now, right? And Chelsea aren't a great deal better. So, if we need, what's going to be? It depends on what we need. If we need 1 point, I think we can get it from those 2 games. If we need 3 points, I still fancy ourselves here. Like, I mean, I think that was the hump that we had to get over. I think it's done.
Aye. Now, Keegan, are you going to be a pussy and say we're not there just yet? Or are you going to say, nah, it's pretty much done and dusted?
No. Why we're not there yet at all. Like
pussy.
We're there when we're there.
Pussy.
Pussy.
Get your own shit, you two. Stop it.
But that league table, I reckon Villa will get something at Anfield. I'm not going to say they're going to get a win. I reckon they could scrape a draw. Liverpool are on a sensational run right now. I think only Man City have got a better run of form in the league right now than Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool have had help from VAR in the last few games. But, they're always going to get that. And somehow Klopp got a 2-match ban, but only one of them is eligible for this season. So I don't know how that works out. That's batshit. That league table, it doesn't lie. We thoroughly deserve where we're going to be. We will qualify for the Champions League. I think everybody's pretty much nailed on. It's going to happen now. And that brings us neatly on to our next game, which is against Leeds. Actually, no, sorry. Forgot man of the matches. We'll do that now. So, Keegan, I'll come to you first. And before I do anything, I'm actually going to put Lee on mute. So you can go on.
I was going to make him go first. It's the first time I was going to let him be happy he could go. I'm going to give mine. It was a tough. So my 3-2-1 would be Miggy 3, Trippier 2, and Callum Wilson 1.
I would go Wilson 3 because he led the line like an absolute champ this whole game. Not an Australian prison champ, but like he was brilliant. This that press that he did all game on stealing that in the first half, especially I suppose, or particularly, was just terrific. And that's why I don't think Isaac can play that forward 9. I think he needs to be slightly to the wing. I don't think he can kind of lead the line like Wilson can. But anyway, moving on. 3 to Wilson, 2 to Miggy. He was absolutely fantastic until he kind of ran out of puff. But even then, he still managed to set up the third goal. And then 1 to Trips, who has finally found his range. And I hope he can do it for the rest of the season.
Adam's going to pick 1, and I'm going to go for Miggy.
Pussy.
Oh, Miggy was sensational the entire game. He should have got on the score sheet, but unfortunately didn't. But yeah, cracking in every other department of that one for him. So
yeah,
that concludes the Brighton review. We're now going to do a quick fly-through tour, because this is one on for a little bit too long, of a Leicester preview. Now, this game already mentioned, it's a Tuesday morning kickoff for us here in Australia. Another game under the lights at St. James's Park. And this is probably the second biggest game of the season now, following this game that we've just done the review of. And I'm going to bring the table back up. Literally couldn't have got 2 different ends of the table here. Leicester, who Jack said a number of times, Leicester won't get relegated. Leicester won't get relegated. They're too good to go down. Now, there's no such thing as a team is too good to go down. And looking at that and the fixtures they've got left, you'd think it's pretty much good night Irene on that one, wouldn't you, Keegan?
I'll take your word for it, mate. I've got no idea who they're playing, apart from us.
I believe their last game is Man City, but I could be wrong on that.
Oof.
Oh, they're in more shit than a Werribee Duck, then I reckon. You probably would know. There's a near in between Geelong and Melbourne, there's a place called Werribee, and it's got a sewage farm. So if people are in trouble, we say they're in more shit than a Werribee Duck. But anyway, yeah, they're down. I think the last spot is probably going to be between Leeds and Everton, I reckon.
Yeah, it's certainly looking great. From one thing that is good in their favour, and it's actually helping us out this season as well, is their goal difference.
Yeah.
Plus of 18. Yeah, which isn't that bad considering the position they're in. Obviously, it's a minus, so it's not great. But the teams around them, Southampton on minus 35, they're already gone. Leeds minus 25, Everton minus 24, and Forest, who are pretty much safe now, on minus 31. So that's one saving grace they've got, which could be effectively a valuable point for them. But this game coming up, Lee, the game last season we played against Leicester, that 2-1 win, we did go behind 1-0. And we touched on it just before, where Bruno scored that last-minute diving header.
Flying header.
That was an absolutely... I can't remember an end to a game where everybody's just gone mental every one time. And that just cemented Bruno's legacy as a quality player, I believe, in that game. Now, we don't want it to go that way the same again, because obviously at that stage in the game, it was only 1-1. We want it to be a nice, comfortable win. So how do you see the game against Leicester panning out?
Well, I think it might be something like Leeds. The only difference, significant difference as it is that we're at home this time rather than away. But they are fighting for their lives, as you just pointed out there on the table. I think if you were to ask me now what the score prediction might be, and sorry if that's the next question, but I would probably think that I could see this being like I could probably see this being a 1-1, you know. Like I could, we obviously concede. I think Leicester, get you on jokes. I think Leicester have no choice ultimately. They have to go for the win if they have any chance of staying up. And at times during the season, we've both said that suits our style of play. And at other times, it doesn't really suit our style of play. It just depends on how the teams line up and, you know, how the winds are blowing on that particular day. I think Leicester will have to go for it. They haven't got a great deal to lose at this point. They are in the losing positions already. Like, you know, and if City is their next or final game, like if it's us and then City, I tried to check the fixtures there. I couldn't find them. But if that's the way it is, then you have to imagine that they're not going to get anything from Man City. They could do because they're on the beach, but they probably won't. And so they might see Newcastle. There's literally the only chance that they have to get any more points to save their season. So I think they are going to go for it. If we play the same high press that we applied in the first half of this game, we're going to win. That's how I see it going.
Yeah, it's I can't see it going any other way. Like I say, they've got everything to fight for. But it is literally just going to be a case of I think it's too little, too late. They've got all the fight in the world, but have they got any fight left in them? They've given everything. I mean, they got annihilated off Liverpool in a short space of time. Liverpool are a brilliant, cracking, attacking team, as we know, but they've had other results where it just hasn't gone their way. They conceded loads of goals against Everton and everything. Their final game actually, is against West Ham away. West Ham at home. So that'll be a massive game for them. So they need to try and get something from this game. But the one thing they can't do is concede first. Because if Leicester concede first, then they're just going to lie down and we'll roll over them. And I do think, and I think Jack mentioned this as well, we might need some type of cricket score result here, depending on how Liverpool go on their games as well. Because if we get this win, yes, it's confirmed, but we lose against Chelsea, then we're literally just going to be there on that one extra point and potentially goal difference for between third and fourth. So could be huge on that. I know goal difference doesn't make much difference between us and Man United because the gap is so large. But in terms of lineups, I'll ask you this one, Keegan. You pretty much went with the team as Willock got replaced, so you brought Anderson in on that one. So I'll let you just go through that starting 11.
Yeah, I'll keep it snappy. Conscious of our time, but yeah, it's the same thing. I think it's really hard with the short turnaround, and there were a few knocks and things like that. But I mean, we've got one more. We've got a grand final basically, and we can get the win here. We're right, so I think we're going to go all chips in for this game against Leicester at home, and hopefully get the result we're after. But yeah, I think it's going to be a shit fight. I think they're going to make it really hard because, like Lee said, they're not out trying to get dragged in. They're in now, so like they're just going to keep coming and coming and coming because they need to get points. They're not just going to sit back and hope for a draw because the draw won't help them. They need to win at least one of these last two games. So they're going to be coming. They've still got some quality players in their team. They might have some shit ones as well, but they've still got some bloody good ones. So I mean, we're after Maddison and Barnes, if the rumours are correct, like these are quality players who we think is good enough for our side, but they're not on our side. So they've still got quality players in there. So we've got to be cautious and not throw everything at it. We need to be calm. We need to be methodical. We need to pick them apart and hopefully we do all this stuff with the quality that we have all over the pitch and we can get what we need.
Agreed. We'll touch on the Leicester lineup now. So I'll go through this one. This is just basically a carbon copy of the team that lost against Liverpool 3-0 at Anfield. So we've got Everson in goal, who is probably worse than Steele in that opening first 45 minutes. He seems terrible as a goalkeeper. He's pretty much one of the reasons why they're down there, I reckon. He's dog shit. Castagna on the left. Evans is captain. I can't even pronounce. Is it Wout Faust? Is that how it's pronounced? I'm not sure.
No,
Pereira, Ntiti, Samare, Bonds, Tielemans, Maddison, and Vardy. Vardy will be playing along with his Zimmer frame. He's got to be, 304 years old now. Again, you touched on before, Keegan, Bonds and Maddison being two of their most influential and goal scoring threats. And Lee, you touched on it in the private chat, that Bonds is actually their top goal scorer of the season.
He is. He's on 12, and Maddison's on 10. Barnes has set up 2 or 3, and Maddison set up 9, I think it was, off the top of my head. So that's where the goals, that's where the threat is going to come from, I think. Tielemans done absolutely bugger all. Vardy, you can't take your eyes off because he is just a striker by nature. Not because I hate you. Maddison and Barnes, good players. I don't know about that keeper, to be honest with you. Faz is a liability at the back. I think if their last game, if they're playing us and then West Ham, West Ham will probably have their mind on the Europa League, or whatever that's called these days, final, which they're through, and I hope they win. There's a good chance they might just take this one easy and then target West Ham, assuming that they'll be on the beach. I'm not sure how the dates fall. I think that doesn't really matter what Leicester do. I just don't see them as much as they need it. I think Newcastle will just have too much for them. I think if we go at them like we did the first half against Brighton, and Brighton are a much better team than Leicester this season, then they will probably concede at least 2, or probably more in the first half, and that'll be game.
Well, we've already beaten them at the King Power 3-0, which was the first game back from the World Cup. Miggy scored a sensational solo goal. And was it 2-0 in the League Cup? Dan Burn got his first ever goal. That was against Leicester, I believe it was. So we could get the hat-trick against Leicester this season. Hopefully we do, because then it obviously solidifies Champions League football, puts us on 72 points, and we can start bringing the party to Tyneside. The money will start rolling in. We will start getting players of even potentially better class than Bruno and whatever, as the name of Newcastle United goes around the football world that little bit more. So I'm going to get predictions off you. Now, I don't want you to be a pussy on this one, Keegan, and go for a boring draw like you normally do.
Shut up, or I'll smash you in the face. There's only one person who said a draw here.
Yes, you.
So, Keegan, I'll come to you first, and you've got a chance on this one. Score prediction, please.
I'll take this
1-1.
first,
Nah, I'm tipping a 2-1 win.
2-1 win, and I'll let you go for a goal scorer as well.
Wilson and Joelinton.
Wilson and Joelinton.
Big J. I reckon it'll be I wouldn't be surprised if we don't concede in this game, but I think we are on a run of conceding, so I'm going to just err on the side of caution here. I think it'll be another 4-1.
I was going to say 3-1, and I reckon, and I'd love to see this happen. Elliot Anderson gets the goal that sends us through to the Champions League. You know, he horrifically had that one chalked off against Forest. I'd love to see him get the goal that does it for a local lad, just like Dan Burn did earlier on this morning. But I think we'll wrap it up there, lads. We've taken too much of our own time and everybody else's right now. We're nearly an hour and 20 minutes into this. We could have literally rewatched the entire game at this run. But it's late at night now. It's nearly 9:30. We're going to go and rewatch the game again, and probably again after that. And does anyone know if the match cam has been put on yet? Because those things are fantastic.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know.
I'm going to go try and hunt down the match cam. But cheers, Lee. Cheers, Keegan. And thanks to everybody that has been watching and or listening. Remember, we're trying to get to 1,300 subscribers before the season out. As it stands right now, we are on 1,253 at time of recording. So hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and give her a 5-star on all of the social channels as well. If you don't have any questions for the lads, put in the comments below. Come and see us on social media. You'll see all the links again on the YouTube Twitter page. So, easy as that. Thanks, lads. We will see you on the next one, which is going to be a Leicester review, and hopefully we can get the party started on that one. Cheers, lads.
The mighty
We'll see you next one. Come on.